Welcome to Unbiased and On the Fence. I'm Shane. So glad you could join. Well, today we are talking about more Mandela Effect stuff. Probably not too surprised. Well, this morning when I woke up, I'm not subscribed to any news or anything, but what's up, Salted Cedar? Great program the other night, man. Good to see you're up and running. Mary, you got some... Mary's hopping in here, and she's actually got some competition this time. Usually she's the first to hop in. But welcome to you all, and I'm so glad you could join me today. When I woke up this morning, I'm pretty disconnected from the news and what's going on and everything. But I looked at my phone, and it said that there had been an attack or a shooting in Las Vegas, and immediately I looked at the date, because I look at these things so much differently than I would have, even 6 months ago. And so I saw the date was, when it happened was last night. It was 10:01. And, that's in the format that we write the date. But, some places it's 01:10, which gives us our 11. Well, I start looking for multiples of 11, and especially the 22, because you see the 22. I don't know if you guys saw the Facebook post a while back that was going viral about if you got any plans, don't do it on the 22nd, because the 22nd seems to be this date where all this bad stuff happens and everything. And I was just talking about being in the world, but not of it. And I think this is another example of how we can get sucked into this stuff. I know in the past I would have started looking up videos and spent probably 2 or 3 hours just investigating it and trying to figure stuff out. I did the Ariana Grande video not too long ago, and just as soon as you start questioning things, you got one of two groups. One group says it's completely fake, which I didn't know if it was fake or just a false flag, because false flags, many people think those are fake, but people really die in false flag attacks. It's just the official story isn't true. I mean, but people, people have talked about 9/11, and some of them are hoaxes, complete hoaxes, and I think Sandy Hook might have been one of those. Just speculating, I don't know for sure, but I've seen some pretty wild evidence that, where people were putting up donation pages before it happened, and where the kids appeared to be alive later on and things like that. So evidently there's always some weird stuff going on whenever we're looking into this sort of thing. So when I woke up and I saw this whole attack, I immediately looked at the date. And then the second thing in mind was the MAN code, M-A-N, man. We see this a lot with false flags. So before I even knew, all I knew was there was a shooting in Las Vegas. I started looking for, is there a man in it somewhere, either in the city or the last name of the shooter? Was it, Herman or something? But find out it happened in Mandalay Bay. Now, before I even knew it was Mandalay Bay, I was immediately looking for a man in the title, either in the name of the shooter or in the city. So to my surprise, when I found out it was Mandalay Bay, I immediately, started questioning, the true intentions or the true official story, if you will, going around, and watched about 10 minutes of it, and you start focusing on different things. Before, I would think, the world, what's the world coming to, that somebody would do such a horrible thing, and then you start kind of resonating in fear. I know it was like that with the DC sniper a few years back, had people afraid to get gas at the pumps because, some crazy sniper was on the loose. But one of the ways I can tell I changed was because in just the few clips I watched, you guys might have seen one of the clips. It was this lady inside of a pickup truck, and they're carrying somebody up on a stretcher, and they're like, right now we really need your truck to get these people to the hospital and all this. And I was almost in tears because I was sitting there like just feeling for the people, having compassion that they had to go through this traumatic thing or whatever. And, you know, of course, the lady's like, yeah, put as many people in the back as you can, no problem. You know, I was so touched by the way everybody came together and started working to, you know, help strangers, complete strangers. And it was the same thing when I watched Harvey and these hurricanes, and you see these complete strangers just helping people out in a time of need. And I was touched by that. But in the middle of all that, I start cracking up laughing, right? I don't, have you guys ever done it? You're like about to cry, and then you see something that just hits you as funny, and you start to laugh about it. And I thought, you know, this was this country concert. You know, where else, what other concert could there be so many pickup trucks available? You know, and I start laughing like, you know, half the people drove pickup trucks there probably. It just made for a lot of great makeshift ambulances to get people to help. So it's one of those things that kind of struck me as funny. But sort of surprised that I didn't see a 22 in there somewhere. And then actually right before the broadcast, I was watching Destroying the Illusions channel. He put out a new video, and he was talking about how Saturn is at 22 degrees of Sagittarius. So we got the 22, and Sagittarius is the archer. You know, you shoot from a distance. Those are long range soldiers or whatever, if you will. So the 22 was there. It wasn't readily available in the date or the time, but it was still in there, and you didn't have to dig very far to find it. So these codes and symbols and words like man, after I saw this, the way it tied to the Mandela Effect, I thought, Mandela Effect. Why have I never realized that man is in Mandela Effect? Now, does that mean it's a false flag? Well, typically when you got man in there, it just means the official story is BS. So the official story is that it's false memories. So I don't know, coincidence? You decide on that one, but I thought it was awfully wild the way I haven't even noticed that this whole time, that Mandela Effect had the man code in it. And, you know, the official story is BS, that, you know, we all have false memories because people that are experiencing this know it's not BS. I mean, it's just amazing. So back to being in the world, but not of it. I think that our beliefs that have molded us many times aren't really even, they really aren't even our beliefs, because, you know, as you're raised, you sort of are told by your mom, dad, preacher, and teacher what to do, what not to do, what to believe, where to go, and who to hang out with. And Kelly had sent me this video I thought was hilarious, because it was I think it was Black Sabbath. It was one of the bands that I grew up, you know, in a Christian home, hearing that, you know, that's the devil's music, don't listen to that. Well, you know, I didn't really listen to it, but he sent me this clip that I watched, and I was reading the lyrics, and I was blown away by how much truth was hidden right there in the lyrics. I think it was, I'm gonna look up, I think it was Heaven and Hell or something along those lines. But, you know, listen to it and check out the lyrics, and you'll be blown away at how much, you know, the supposed devil's music had a lot more truth in it than what you see other places that supposedly have the truth. So our beliefs that we go around with from our parents, people in authority as we're growing up, a lot of times those beliefs, we just sort of take them on. We sort of accept them. We live by them. And we never really question them because they come from people we trust. And if I've learned anything, it's that a lot of the things I grew up, you know, being taught, I've had to sort of let fall away because they just didn't resonate with me. And you know what? I can think of things that didn't resonate with me when I was first told about them. Look at, in the beginning, when you're taught the Old Testament and things like that, and think of like, you remember Jesus saying that you got to become like little children. And I think about that a lot, because a lot of the things that I've grown up to realize was bad information, I knew as a child that it was bad information. Take, for instance, animal sacrifices in the Old Testament. You know, I remember being, you know, really taken aback by the way God wanted you to take the most beautiful lamb or whatever and slaughter it for something bad that you did. It just didn't quite make sense of why. Like, why would God want to kill little animals for something someone else did? It just totally didn't make sense. But it was one of those things that you hear and you just accept it, you know, because you're told not to question things like that, or you're told, well, when you get to heaven, you can ask God, you know. And so another one was hell. It's like, why would God burn the people he loves forever and ever? Because they, you know, made a mistake in less than 100 years of life. They made some mistakes. They were clearly deceived, and then he's going to just make them suffer forever and ever. So a lot of these things that I've grown to realize is bad information, I knew as a child when I was told that they just didn't add up to good information. And we sort of have lots of beliefs and things that we take on like that about particular people or types of people, or, you know, races. For some people that's grown up in racist homes, and, you know, your parents sort of tell you don't trust this type of person or this type of person. And we sort of just accept it. Some of us learn that it's bad information, but some of us just carry it on because that's what we were told to do. And so I believe that we are entering this new era of this type of stuff falling away. These really three-dimensional beliefs as we move into the fourth and the fifth, where it's just more loving and more compassionate, more at, you know, peace with fellow man. And you know, as these political structures fall away and these religious structures fall away, we can really get to the heart of what truth actually is. And we're getting tools available to us that we might not know about. I've gotten a couple comments about a guy named Jim Self with Mastering Alchemy. And I think it's strange because, you know, you can call it coincidental, but I've got people sending me comments about the same person, and I send it off to someone else. Hey, check this out. And you're like, I was just watching it yesterday. And you're like, spreading it one time. All these different people are spreading it. Is it coincidental? I don't know. I mean, I don't believe in coincidences myself. If that's the route you want to take and believe it's coincidental. But when I started checking into this Jim Self guy with the Mastering Alchemy, I started realizing how much of what he was actually sharing and teaching were right in line with the things I had felt like were revealed to me in an intuitive sense, or a divine sense, if you will. So a while back, I did a video, and I've got links in the description, all the stuff I'm talking about. I did a video a while back about the ninth wave, and this guy that had done work with, you know, the Mayan code, and, you know, the whole 2012 prophecy and all that good stuff. And what I discovered was, he said the ninth wave, the unity wave, started in, I think he said October 28th of 2011. So 2 weeks later was 11/11/11. And when I was watching Jim Self, he mentioned this. It sounded like he was talking about the same thing to me, but it was this sort of this wave that came in 11/11/11, and it was like a Christ consciousness wave, right? And it's sort of paralleled what we learned from the ninth wave information. So I got into looking into Jim Self stuff a little bit more, and realized that we're right in the middle of this shift to a higher dimension. We're sort of imagining ascension happening, like this wave's going to come, it's going to bump us up into the 5D, but really it's more like these waves are coming and they sort of nudge us or push us, and they are all specifically for aiding us in doing the work ourselves, you know. And I think with the Mandela Effect, what, you know, I often refer to it as a wake-up call, but think about that. Most people are walking around unconscious, but unconscious of being unconscious. So they're asleep and don't even realize they're asleep, oblivious to the fact that they're asleep. And I think what the Mandela Effect did for me and many others is it sort of made us conscious of being unconscious. So you realize you're asleep. You might not know where to go with that, but you realize that things aren't lining up with the way you thought they worked. So it forces you to start looking deeper at everything. Once the Mandela Effect happened for me, I had to completely clear off the chalkboard and start saying, what do I really know? What is really true? Because the Mandela Effect, impossible things were happening. And my worldview did not answer those questions that were coming up. So I had to sort of clear the chalkboard and started at the first step. And I think the first step is being conscious of being unconscious. So a lot of us are at that point. So when I came across this information with Jim Self with Mastering Alchemy, I realized that he has the tools that I need and many of my viewers need to actually start taking steps towards thinking differently and utilizing some of these tools that have become available to us. And it's really amazing stuff. Even, I've talked about David Wilcock and Corey Good and the whole cosmic disclosure thing. And a friend, Becky, sent me a link to one of their latest broadcasts. And they were saying sort of the same thing, that, these higher intelligences aren't going to do it for us. They'll aid us, but we're the ones that's got to step up to the plate and actually, take the step and do what we need to do to ascend. So if we're just sort of sitting around waiting, it's like we're still asleep and we're not doing anything about it. So we should take an active role in the whole ascension process. And like I said, there's new tools available to us. Jim Self gets into a lot of that stuff, which is really amazing. Actually, I want to play a clip from him. And I've got this link below of the one I'm about to play for you, but also the first two steps that are actually from 2015. I've also got those linked below as well. Those are called, let me see if I can pull it up. Well, let me play this clip real fast, and then I'll talk more about Jim.
And so this transition to this new human is something that is a choice. And it's very much a choice about managing your electrical thoughts and your emotions that are magnetic and beginning to step into. Now, it's not that sounds good, yeah, I'd like to experience that. It really is about doing it, and it's about living it. And so those of you playing in Mastering Alchemy, you've had a huge jump on the game. But please understand, this is now accelerating, and it's going to accelerate more and more. And you're going to see more disruption in terms of climate, in terms of earth changes, in terms of geopolitical activities in the external world. For the most part, those things have nothing to do with you. So really understanding how to manage your energy field, manage your space, begin to recognize present time, begin to choose rather than shoot, ready, aim. Simple tools all taught in level 1, but basically in level 2, but basically the perspective of seeing everything around you without getting everything around you, all of you. So if you'd like, I'll talk more about these topics more specifically going forward, but let me come to a stopping point right there.
Okay, and that is Jim Self from the Course in Mastering Alchemy YouTube channel. So I was really amazed at how all of this stuff tied into what we've already been talking about on this channel, about staying in the moment, about being in the world but not of it. And it's hard to not notice what's going on, but you can actually learn to not be so reactive to what's happening. And I think one thing that's helped me a whole lot is responding to comments, because I learned years ago when reading Proverbs, that once you say things and once you speak a lot, you know, you're sort of putting yourself out there to sort of say things you're going to regret later on, and you can't ever take things back that you say. So it's been a tremendous help for me when I'm writing comments. And, you know, I've been so much in the moment that the other day I was writing this comment, not, I didn't really write anything that was offensive, but I realized that it could have been taken offensively. And when I went to hit send on the comment, my thumb hit the back button that I have on my mouse, and it went back. And my first reaction was, oh, got to write all that again. But then being aware of the moment, I thought, why did that just happen? Why did I just accidentally hit that button? You know, I would have never looked for any reason in something that seemed so random. But I realized when I thought about what I wrote that it could have been taken wrong. It could have offended some people, even though I didn't intend for it to come out that way. So even now, when I'm more careful about what I write, there's still times that you can get careless. And when you're talking to someone in person, someone can say something, you can sort of react to it in a way that you're like, wow, why did I say that? I wish I wouldn't, or I wish I would have worded it differently. And we go through this all the time. Well, we're sort of going through this period where we're going to be able to see those things ahead of time. You're going to be able to, you know, take that pause before you answer and sort of tap into your higher self and come up with a better answer. And even when we screw up, something might happen. Somebody, car horn might honk or something and interrupt you. And we've got tools, but you've got to recognize them as tools available to us. And I think it's tremendous when you can really see all of these things around that seem like they're just coincidental things, but you start to see them in a whole new light, that things just don't happen on accident. You know what I mean? There is no coincidences. I totally believe that now. It's like I mentioned it before, when you're playing video games and the designers have put what they call Easter eggs in there, little things you can find here and there. You're never playing a video game like that and come across an Easter egg and think, oh, this just happened to be here by coincidence. No, you start to recognize that real life is not much different. It's really designed in a way, and you start to see even the what you would call negative forces are just sort of the, you know, there's every story has to have its flip side. You've got to have the hero, and then you've got to have, you know, the what's the word for it? The enemy or the bad guy. And once you start seeing that, you realize that we're all playing our roles here. Some decide to play the negative role. Some of us decide to take the positive path. From what we found out in the Law of One material, it's much easier to take the positive path. It's set up for us to win in the end. And, you know, eventually we will. We're going to have hard times, just like the whole hero's journey. You know, when I look at the whole concept of the hero's journey and I look at my life, I'm just amazed at how much my life followed that whole thing where, you know, you go from the known into the unknown, and then you're sitting there sort of unsure about things, and then you sort of go through the death process, or, you know, the point where you're just at your lowest. And that for me was the beginning of this year, where I felt like, you know, God was nothing more than energy. And, you know, and I got to experience for the first time what life without God was really like, you know, because in my mind, that was very real to me. And it was only after this Mandela Effect that it sort of kicked me back in gear, and I realized, oh, wow, there really is a higher power, and it's a personal higher power. It's love. I feel like it's just God is love, if you will. And you might hear me often sort of make it sound like a he, or anthropomorphize God as this person, but really I feel like God is love. It's like it's everything that there is, and we're all part of that love. And so we actually will excel much better if we can tap into that love, spread the peace, the compassion, And it's really the story of Jesus, you know, having unforgiveness for people, and to just really think about our actions. And we're going into this period where Jim Self was talking about, where we can really consider our actions. We can act rather than react to the things around us. We can see what's happening in the news, but not react, not feel fearful about what's happening, because so many things are happening, weather related, political stuff, and we're going to see things, but we have to know not to react to them, and to have confidence that things are going to work out, and that in the end, love works out. That was pretty much what all I had on this. Let me go to the comments real quick, make sure I'm not missing anything. If there's any questions, if you could type at and then UN, it should pop my name up there, and it will send it directly to me, or, you know, to make it to where I can see it, it'll stand out to me. Otherwise I might miss it. So yeah, it just gets back into being in the world but not of it, because there's really no way for us to be in the world and not see all the negative stuff going around. So okay. Well, let's see. With that, I don't really see any questions. You know what? I mentioned the whole thing about, I think when you see the numbers pointing to things, when me and Andrew was talking about the numbers and how you can see a deeper meaning in things when you look at numbers, and when you look at the changes in numbers, I think they're just all an indicator that it's not coincidental. I don't think you really have to, you know, go so deep into it that you're just, because once you start seeing these things, it's hard not to see them. That's why, like I told you about waking up this morning, and I immediately looked for man, and there it was. And I was like, whoa, this is really some real stuff going on, you know? So it's easy to sort of get caught up, just like the whole Mandela Effect. It's easy to get caught in the whole Mandela Effect and kind of get stuck on the changes. And oh, big shout out to Lone Eagle, because he shouted me out last night on his live broadcast, and love his channel. So if you're not subscribed to Lone Eagle, go check him out. We're definitely playing for the same team, spreading the love and the light to everyone. So definitely. You know, and I think that too, the Green Man is pointing out about, you know, different mind control techniques and things that have been employed by the government. But you know what? What are we going to do about that stuff? What are you going to do about chemtrails? All that stuff is designed to just bring you down. So if you focus on chemtrails, you look up and you're just disgusted with the sky, like many times I am. It's tough, I know, but you don't want to focus on that to where it makes you resonate in anger and fear about what's happening. Just know, at the end of the day, that's why I feel like the bigger heart and things like that were, you know, sort of a counteract to some of the harmful things they're doing to us. I feel like we've gotten some DNA upgrades to handle the toxins they're putting out, and it's just to buy us more time. That's why I say a lot of the Mandela Effect changes is typically I think the landmass changes could be to prevent, you know, maybe the water rising too fast, or different things happen like that. I believe this stuff is either a gift or a revelation of what is actually happening. So it's like a revealing, kind of like Andrew was talking about Dolly's braces coming off to reveal her pearly white teeth that didn't really need any braces. So it was like sort of a revelation. But what are you going to do about the mind control stuff? I mean, it's really outside of our control. So, I mean, you could recognize it. Like, I recognize a false flag. I see things, but you know what? I'm not going to sit and look at it all day and try to bust them for no reason other than to get other people worried about it. So I see these things, and I think, you know, it's good not to just stick your head in the sand about it. But at the same time, you know, if ultimately you can't do anything about it, even if you're the type of person that's an activist and stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, if you wouldn't have went and held up the picket sign and did whatever you did, you know, I'm talking about really active people that really try to make changes and stuff. Everybody else would have been there, and they would have been holding up their signs. And, you know, you wouldn't have been focused on that. You would have been focused on ourselves. And everything is sort of getting us to take the focus off ourselves and put it out on the world. And all that does is bring up fear and anger, because I mean, it's not hard to get angry when you look around at how things are getting ran and everything. But sort of understand that, you know, like I said, the hero has to have his nemesis, but we shouldn't focus on that, because it only takes away from our training and preparation. And really the only thing we have control over is ourselves. So as long as we're looking outward, we're not looking inward, and we're not excelling in the way that we can. All right, so with that, I will chat with you guys in the chat box after this goes down here. And I appreciate everyone stopping in today. And until then, I will see you on the next broadcast. Have a great one.